Grammy Award-winning rapper Kid Cudi entered the New York City courtroom where Sean Diddy Combs is on trial.
Have been following all week long any updates that we've been getting there from the Big Apple about the Sean Diddy Combs trial.
Cassie Ventura, Combs' ex-girlfriend, who the disgraced rap mogul is accused of repeatedly abusing.
But it doesn't go into sex trafficking. Sex trafficking is the difference between consent and coercion.
George Kaplan said he witnessed Combs violently attack Ventura aboard a private jet.
Tension hung heavy in the air on day 5 of Diddy's federal trial. Inside the courtroom, the energy was off. Cameras clicked, observers whispered, and at the defense table, Sean Combs, once known as one of the most untouchable names in music, sat staring at the floor. His calm exterior was cracking. What no one knew at the time was that something unexpected was about to unfold, something that would shift the entire tone of the trial. It wasn't a surprise witness. It wasn't a viral video leak. It was the entrance of 50 Cent. Yes, that 50 Cent. For over a decade, he'd been one of the few celebrities willing to call out Diddy publicly. But on this day, he didn't come to troll from behind a screen. He walked through the doors in person, suit sharp, expression unreadable, and suddenly the gallery fell silent. People didn't expect him to show up, and definitely not like this. Without a word, he took a seat toward the back, arms folded, locking eyes with Diddy. The courtroom seemed to freeze. Even the judge paused for a beat before resuming the day's proceedings. From that moment on, everything changed. Diddy's team had already been on edge following emotional testimony from Cassie the day before. Her statements had stirred the room. Now, with 50's surprise appearance, the defense looked rattled. One attorney leaned in urgently, whispering to Diddy, but he barely reacted. His attention was fixed on 50 Cent, like he was seeing the past and the fallout staring right back at him. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed. Everyone waited for a comment, and when 50 finally spoke, it wasn't for the cameras. It was clear, direct, and heavy. He said, "I've seen this industry protect the wrong people for too long." He backed Cassie publicly, praising her for her courage and stating she was no longer alone in this fight. Then he dropped the first of several bombshells. He revealed he had been working quietly with Cassie's legal team, providing them with information, documents, and communications from years past, including material from a former security team member who reportedly witnessed troubling events at exclusive gatherings. But he wasn't done. 50 went further, announcing he'd funded an independent investigation into Combs' past, bringing in private investigators to dig deeper into a history many in the industry had chosen to ignore. Not for headlines, he said, but because too many people had been silenced. Cassie's legal team later confirmed their gratitude in a brief statement, praising 50 for his courage and belief in truth. Meanwhile, Diddy's lawyers tried to paint the moment as a publicity stunt, but behind closed doors, their demeanor was clearly shaken. Back inside, Diddy avoided the gallery's gaze. His posture changed, fingers tapped nervously, breathing became heavier, and 50, he sat still, silent and locked in. Later that day, whispers swirled that the defense had requested a closed-door conversation with the judge. Rumors pointed to a possible gag order request, but it was already too late. The internet had moved. Clips of 50's courthouse statement exploded across platforms. Celebrities who had been quiet began reposting Cassie's original lawsuit. Others broke their silence with cryptic support messages. The wall of celebrity silence, it was finally cracking. Cassie returned to the stand, this time with renewed confidence. She walked in taller, more composed. Her tone wasn't just recollection, it was conviction. She confirmed she had been in contact with 50 Cent's team, that she'd shared details, messages, timelines, and recordings, and she said more people had come forward since he showed his support. "I'm not afraid anymore," she told the court, her voice steady. "Not when people are finally listening." Then she shared a deeply disturbing memory, a trip to the Hamptons in 2017, where she claimed she was confined to a guest house for 2 days after messaging a colleague. The explanation given to her, she had embarrassed someone. "He told me I was his property," she said. The room fell silent. She went on to describe a pattern of control, how at events she was told who she could speak to, where to stand, and when she was allowed to leave. This wasn't affection, it was restriction. Then she looked at the gallery and spoke directly to those who may have seen seen things but said nothing. I hope you say something too. In the back, Diddy stared at her, his face showing a mix of disbelief and visible frustration. One of his attorneys placed a hand on his shoulder. He didn't move. 50 Cent remained seated, but when Cassie spoke those words, he gave her a subtle nod. It didn't go unnoticed. Observers in the courtroom could feel the shift. Cassie's testimony no longer stood alone. With 50's public stance, her words carried new weight, and the jury seemed to feel it. One juror who had been passive now leaned forward, scribbling furiously. Another shook their head slowly during parts of her account. This wasn't just a trial anymore. It was becoming a reckoning. That night, Diddy's legal team reportedly held an emergency meeting. Sources say they debated changing their entire defense strategy, moving from a denial-based approach to something more emotional, trying to reframe their client not as innocent, but as misunderstood. The following day, the prosecution struck while the defense was off balance. They submitted motions to introduce new witness testimony, two former employees claiming to have first-hand knowledge of the behavior Cassie described. One was a former tour manager who recalled an explosive moment backstage. The other, a past assistant who had been instructed to track Cassie's whereabouts and report back regularly. The defense objected. The judge allowed it. Inside the jury box, the focus was intense. One previously disinterested juror sat upright, eyes fixed forward. Diddy, once poised and confident, was visibly unraveling, no longer taking notes, now whispering and muttering to his team. A sketch artist captured him with his head in his hands. It was clear, the image he had built for decades, controlled, powerful, respected, was beginning to collapse. Online, 50's statement had already gone viral. In less than 12 hours, over 60 million views flooded across platforms. Fans, celebrities, and industry insiders began speaking out. Usher unfollowed Diddy. Mary J. Blige scrubbed their photos. Justin Bieber removed multiple posts and posted a story that read, "Sometimes we learn too late who people really are." Cardi B posted, "Protect women, no matter how powerful the man is." Drake liked a post that read, "Real ones speak up. Cowards stay quiet." Even non-musical celebrities joined in. Viola Davis, Gabrielle Union, both shared messages of support. Then came a post from someone unexpected, a producer who had remained anonymous for years. "I worked on 3 projects with him," he said. "I stayed quiet. Not anymore." That post alone earned over 300,000 likes. Behind the scenes, advertisers began quietly backing out of projects connected to Diddy's media company, Revolt. Sponsorships were canceled. Staff reportedly held emergency meetings. One employee said it bluntly, "Nobody wants to be the last one standing next to him when it all collapses." And through all of it, 50 kept posting, each one more deliberate than the last. A throwback photo with Cassie, a caption that read, "You always deserved better." Another post, "Day 5, it starts here." The message? He was far from done. Back in court, Cassie returned to the stand again. And this time, she wasn't just recounting her story. She was exposing a structure she called control architecture. She described how her schedule was managed down to the hour, how she wasn't allowed to book her own travel, how even casual conversations at industry events were met with backlash. Then, a recording was played, approved by the judge. In it, a voice, reportedly Diddy's, can be heard saying, "Don't test me, Cass. You know what happens when you push me." The room went still. Diddy's expression turned pale. One of his lawyers leaned in. He didn't respond. His pen dropped, and a sketch artist caught the exact moment. His face frozen, staring at the audio player like it had betrayed him. By the time court adjourned, even Diddy's longtime defenders looked uneasy. This wasn't just a rough day. This was a turning point. The next morning, the courtroom was on edge. Rumors swirled about Justin Bieber's cryptic online comment the night before. Security around the building tightened. Something big was expected, but no one knew what. Then, at 10:13 a.m., 50 Cent walked in. No entourage, no announcement, just him, in a dark suit walking straight down the aisle. Phones came out, reporters leaned in. Diddy saw him immediately, and everything changed. His jaw tightened. He leaned forward, his fingers dug into the desk. The prosecutor paused, letting the moment settle before continuing, because everyone knew what this meant. Cassie noticed him too, just one glance, no smile, no reaction, but the timing was was powerful. Diddy's attorneys began scrambling, whispering, passing notes. Meanwhile, 50 sat like stone. Not a flinch, not a blink. Cassie resumed her testimony. She spoke about a 2018 incident at Diddy's Miami home. She said she was confined to a private room for over a day after speaking to another executive, and as she spoke, Diddy broke. He began shaking his head, then whispering, then bouncing his leg, and then he snapped. That's not what happened, he shouted, slamming his hand on the table. The room froze. Even the court reporter paused. The judge didn't hesitate. Mr. Combs, this is your only warning, she said. One more outburst and you will be removed. But Diddy wasn't finished. He turned and pointed directly at 50 Cent. You've been waiting for this, haven't you? He growled. You'll regret it. Security moved in fast. Guards flanked his chair. One stood between him and the gallery. 50 didn't react, just leaned back slightly, crossed one leg, and watched. Cassie kept testifying. The judge let the silence linger. Control yourself, she told Diddy, or I will. For a man who built his entire brand around control, that one sentence hit harder than anything else said in the trial. And as the day continued, one thing became clear. This wasn't just a legal battle. This was the moment a public empire began to collapse. And it all changed the second 50 Cent walked in.